What's going on, YouTube? This is SG1 Sports, and you're watching our college football channel. Week 1 now officially over after the Clemson-Duke game last night. What a game that was. I'll talk about it when I get to them in the top 25. But just the way I'm ranking these teams, and I know this is going to be a little bit confusing for some people, and there's some people that are going to have negative comments, and that's fine. There always is, especially early in the season. And I say this every year. I know I repeat myself a lot on some things, but we really cannot judge these teams correctly until about 4 or even sometimes 5 games into the season. So the way I'm ranking these teams is based off of what I saw in week 1, not looking at any preseason expectations or preseason rankings, not just moving teams up and moving teams down. Especially in these first few weeks, I completely start over with a brand new top 25 every single week. Now, I say without looking at preseason or anything like that, you have to look at a little bit. You have to look at the talent on the teams. You have to look at the opponent. For example, Washington over Boise State, versus Tennessee over Virginia. And that's probably not a great example because Virginia and Boise State probably not that much different. But you have to look at the opponent and say, okay, I think that this is a pretty good Group of 5 team in Boise State, or I think that Virginia is one of the worst Power 5 teams. So you have to look at that a little bit. But after we get 4 or 5 weeks in, I don't think you really even have to do that. But this is not a resume ranking. I'm not ranking these teams off of resumes. I think that's really that makes absolutely no sense. We are 1 week into the season. Some teams have played a good opponent, and some teams have not. And so to rank these teams by resume just makes absolutely no sense. Again, the resumes are going to be, there's no way to compare. So I'm just going by what we saw in week 1, what I saw in week 1 from these teams. And so let's just jump right in. Number 25, Miami. I thought Miami was really impressive against Miami of Ohio, a decent team out of the MAC, at least we think. And again, that's going to be the story here. Miami, Ohio could be one of the worst teams in all of college football this year, or they could be really good and Miami might be a top 5 team. It's impossible to know. So that's why I say we have to look at those preseason expectations a little bit. So I'm just judging by that performance, and I thought Miami looked really good on both sides of the ball. I thought the offense just looked different than last year. I look at Miami, Texas A&M, Oklahoma. Those teams just look different, and I know they didn't play great opponents, but they look better against those cupcake opponents than they did last year against those same type of opponents. So I feel like those 3 teams, based off of 1 game, look a lot better, and Miami definitely did look better in their game. Colorado, okay, some people will probably say, well, why do you have them at 24? This team was very impressive. They beat TCU, who we think's really good. Well, I don't know. Maybe TCU's not that great, and that's why at this point I'm not going to jump Colorado way up in these rankings. Matter of fact, if they beat Nebraska, unless it's a convincing win, they're probably going to stay around this same range. But if they go out and they play Oregon and USC, I can't remember which one they play first. If they go out and they lose that game, but they lose by 3 points, you're probably going to see them go up in the rankings. So again, early on, you're just having to try to figure out how good all these teams are. And Colorado looked like a top 25 team, but TCU might be terrible this year. They may have taken a huge step back. It was impressive enough for me, though, to rank this team. So I've got Colorado at 24. Wisconsin at 23. They dropped a little bit for me. Not a, kind of an underwhelming performance from them. We'll see what they do against Washington State. That's going to be a big game on Saturday. But they still won that game easily enough to where I'm going to keep them in the top 25. And then we got Tulane at 22. I felt pretty confident that they would beat South Alabama, and they did. So no real surprise there. They look like a good team. How good, we'll find out when they play Ole Miss on Saturday. And then Oregon State. We knew that San Jose State was not a terrible team. They played USC pretty tough. Oregon State went in there and dominated that game. DJ Uiagalelei looked pretty good. So I think Oregon State, this is going to be a good team, and I've got them at number 21. Number 20 is Duke. All right, so I will give you my takeaways from this game, and you'll notice here I do not have Clemson ranked. It's kind of tough for me. I saw some potential, some good things out of Duke, or out of Clemson, I should say. So I'll start with Clemson, tell you why I don't have them ranked, and then I'll get into Duke. So Clemson last night, you could say, well, they were the better team. They struggled. They didn't get in the end zone a couple times. They missed the field goals. They had the bad fumbles. You could say that. But at the same time, remember in the first half, Duke basically handed them their 7 points. They fumbled that punt and gave Clemson a really short field. If they don't do that, does Clemson even score in this game? So I think it kind of goes both ways. Duke had the fumble right before the half when they probably would have made a field goal, or they would have kicked a field goal. Well, I don't know if they would have made it or not, but let's say they did. So, I mean, this kind of goes both ways. Clemson's defense, I was going to keep them ranked because I was like, this defense does still look really good. But they gave up like 200 yards rushing in this game. And so Duke, made a lot of big plays. Clemson's defense was inconsistent. At times, it looked like a top 5 defense in the country. But there were other times when it didn't look great. And that inconsistency ultimately is the reason why I did not rank Clemson. The offense looked very sluggish. It didn't look great. Still really no big-time playmakers at wide receiver. The run game was good. Maffa and Shipley definitely looked good. Klubnik was up and down, inconsistent. And that was kind of the story with Clemson, inconsistent. I don't think the season's over for Clemson. I think they might actually still beat Florida State in a couple of weeks. But right now, based off of that performance, I can't rank them. For Duke, now Duke on the other hand looked really good. Riley Leonard looks like one of the best quarterbacks in the country, and the way he can escape tackles, it's crazy. He was very good on the ground, through the air. Didn't have a lot of time to throw, and didn't look great throwing the football in this game. But what he did on the ground and what this defense did, they were really good on that side of the ball, and of course made those timely plays. Duke looked like a top 25 team. And we go all the way back to the preseason, and probably back to my way too early top 25. I think I might have had Duke in that top 25. If I didn't, I said Duke to me looks like a top 25 team, but I thought there were more than 25 teams that looked like top 25 teams. So they ultimately did not make it into my preseason top 25, but I thought they were right there and had a chance. So I was not really surprised that they were good. I was more surprised that Clemson struggled as much as they did. And, my gut, and I'm kicking myself now. If you go back to the spring, my gut feeling was that Duke was going to beat Clemson, that Florida State was going to beat LSU. I changed both of those picks and ultimately got them wrong. But the simulations that we did had Duke beating Clemson both times we did them, and then also had Florida State beating LSU both times. So that was interesting, just something there. But Duke at number 20. Number 19, Oklahoma, a lights-out performance, a shutout, offense humming on all cylinders. This was a great performance, and again, it was Arkansas State. We don't think they're going to be very good, but Oklahoma didn't play this well last year. It's different. It's a different story. So again, I think SMU will be a real test. If they win that game convincingly, then I think watch out for Oklahoma, because I think SMU is going to be a good team this year. Really interested to see how that one plays out. Number 18 is Kansas State. They dominated. They took care of their business against a lesser opponent, but still looked impressive. Number 17, LSU. So I dropped the Tigers a good bit. You could, if you want to compare LSU and Clemson, say, well, why is LSU still ranked if Clemson is not? LSU lost by 17, 24. How many points? I don't even remember how many points it was now. But I look back at that game, and the first half, I thought LSU looked like the better team. So this still looks like a really good team. They just had an awful half of football, and they lost to a team that I think is a top 5 team. So a little bit of lost to a better team than Clemson did, even though I do think Duke's a solid team. So that's why I still have LSU ranked. We'll see what they do in the next couple of weeks. But number 16 is North Carolina. Very impressive against South Carolina. Even though Drake May threw I think 2 or 3 interceptions. I can't remember now. The defense looked really good. Maybe South Carolina's offensive line is just terrible, and that's what we're getting back to. Is South Carolina's offensive line that bad, or is South Carolina's offensive line that bad, or is North Carolina's defensive front that good? We don't know, but I think there's definitely improvement on the defensive side for North Carolina. I don't think Drake May's going to play that poorly as far as interceptions go in the future. Outside of the interceptions, he played really well. And the run game was there for North Carolina. This looks like a team that, after Clemson lost to Duke, this ACC could be wide open as far as the second team into the conference championship. North Carolina, Duke, maybe those are real contenders. All right, number 15, Ole Miss. They went out and, Mercer's a pretty good FCS team, and they went out there and just dominated. They had 28 points in 5 minutes? It didn't take long at all. I don't remember the time, but this was a really impressive performance. that offense was definitely clicking, and we'll see now when they face Tulane. Really good opportunity to judge Ole Miss. Texas A&M, though, against New Mexico, very impressive. Connor Wigman looks great. Noah Thomas at wide receiver looks like he's going to be a problem. They still have Evan Stewart, Anaya Smith. This team is loaded, and we knew the talent coming in. It seems like they're putting it all together. I think the Bobby Petrino hire is going to work out, and the Aggies are now maybe even a playoff contender. Based off of that game, again, I'm not going to get too overhyped after one game. Let's see them play a better opponent, but based off of what I saw, I think it's going to be there for the Aggies this year. They're going to have a good season. Number 13, Texas. Kind of an okay performance against Rice, but they still won the game easily. The defense looked good. Quinn Ewers still, he has never really gotten back to how he played against Alabama last year before he got hurt. And we'll see if he can do that again when they play Alabama on Saturday. But I've got the Longhorns at number 13. Still look like a really good team. Number 12, Ohio State. All right, I know people are going to be probably hating this, and I've been accused of being an Ohio State hater. I get it. But based off of that performance, it just wasn't good. Now, the positive is the defense. The defense looked really good, although Indiana not really expected to have a great offense. Still, though, the defense looked good. And then offensively, they just had no rhythm. It did. I think there's time to fix that, and I think Ohio State can still be good this year. They've got the talent. They've got the weapons on offense. But based off of that performance, this did not look like a top 10 team, and that was just my honest take on that game. Number 11, Utah. They looked pretty good against Florida, despite not having Keithy or Cam Rising. Florida did have a lot of mistakes in that game, and you wonder if they don't make those mistakes, would that have been how close would that game have been? Could Utah have even potentially lost? I don't think so. I think they still would have won. But still, a nice performance without your starting quarterback. Utah at number 11. Number 10 is Notre Dame. They are 2-0 now. Again, we got to see them play a better team. Just not much to go off of. We know that the offense is going to be better with Sam Hartman at quarterback. Defense looks great. Run game looks great. I'm really, really anxious to see them against NC State. I actually think they're going to win that game pretty easily. I don't want to give away predictions, but I look for the Irish to play well on Saturday. Number 9 is USC. Easy win for them. Again, they haven't been tested either. I've got them ahead of Notre Dame just because their offense, I think, is still it still is more explosive. Notre Dame has the advantage on defense, USC on offense. That's going to be a great game when they play. But the Trojans also 2-0, number 9. Number 8, Oregon. Put up over 80 points. And I know you have to look at the opponent, but still, that's impressive. Bo Nix is ready. I think they're going to have a really good season. And the talent on this team is there. Oregon, very impressive against a cupcake, but still impressive. Number 7 is Georgia. And I know I'll get plenty of hate from this, but this was not a great performance. It just wasn't. And you have to wonder, with Mike Bobo as the offensive coordinator, is it going to work? Is Carson Beck going to work? It just didn't look great offensively. I don't think Georgia is going to stay outside the top 5 very long, but based off of week 1, I did bump them down to number 7, and I bumped Michigan down to number 6. Just, not a great performance against East Carolina. The positive is J.J. McCarthy. He looked good throwing the football. It looks like he's made some progress there. The passing game overall looked better in this game. And so, Michigan, Georgia, I still think they're probably top 4 teams, but if I have to go off of what I saw in week 1, I do have to drop them just a little bit. Let's go to number 5 now. Washington, very impressive against Boise State. First half, a little bit slow to get started, but boy, they turned it on in the second half. You saw how good this offense can be. And so far, I think Washington probably looks like the best team in the Pac-12. Number 4, Alabama. Jalen Milroe stepping in at quarterback. And, I think that if this is going to be a Jalen Hurts type Alabama team, it really reminds me of that. His ability to run. You can talk about maybe some limitations of the passing game. He looked good throwing the football in this game, but I'm not going to read too much into that. But even if he is not great through the air, he is such a good runner, just like Jalen Hurts was, that this Alabama offense is going to be tough to stop, and the defense is going to be really good. So this is going to be a really good team. I think everyone expected them to be. There are some holes there, or you wonder if there are some holes there if they do have to get into games where they have to throw it. You have to wonder if teams can contain that run game and contain Milroe on the ground. Can they win if they have to throw it? And that's what we'll have to just kind of wait and see once they play a better opponent. But right now, I think this looks like a top 4 team. Tennessee at number 3. Yeah, I jumped them way up because I was impressed. I know Virginia is arguably the worst Power 5 team, but still, it's a Power 5 team, and Tennessee just absolutely dominated this game. At the line of scrimmage, offensive line dominated. The defensive line, the front 7, boy, for Tennessee looked fantastic in this game. And maybe Virginia is just that bad. But if not, if Tennessee's gotten that much better on defense with the offense that they're going to have, this is going to be a really, really good team and a serious playoff contender. I thought Milton looked really good. I talked about Josh Heupel's offense the other day. I think it might be the toughest to stop in all of college football. The plays were there all day. They had some where the receivers missed it or Milton was not super accurate. But the plays were there, and you have to expect them to continue to get better. And if they hit on pretty much all those plays, I mean, can anyone stop Tennessee? I don't know. Milton's got the arm. He can pick up short yardage situations. We saw that on the goal line. They've got a stable of running backs. They're really good at wide receiver. I was just really impressed with Tennessee. All right, number 2, Penn State. I was also really impressed with the Nittany Lions. They looked like the best team in the Big Ten, I thought, in week 1. Drew Aller just looked fantastic. I think he looks like a top 5 quarterback. West Virginia is not Virginia. This was a decent West Virginia team, a really good offensive line, really good running back, and a mobile quarterback. And Penn State's defense did a nice job there. We knew their defense was going to be good. We knew their run game was going to be good. But seeing the passing game and seeing Aller, I mean, he had like one bad pass that should have been intercepted. Other than that, the way the ball comes out of his hands, I was just really impressed with him. That was a player that maybe I had not really seen. He was probably, out of those players, he was probably the most impressive in all of college football in this first game. So I thought Penn State looked great, but Florida State has to be number 1. The way they dominated the second half against LSU, with Keon Coleman now at wide receiver, this offense is going to be a problem. They've got a great run game, a good offensive line, a mobile quarterback that can throw and make plays in Jordan Travis, and now 2 wide receivers that are just mismatches for anyone, and a defensive front that was really, really good. This Florida State team in week 1 looked like the best team in the country, and we'll see how that goes moving forward. Maybe LSU is just not as good as we thought. Again, I don't know how all that plays out, but based off of one game, based off of what I saw in week 1, Florida State did look like the best team. Would love to get your thoughts. Again, I know plenty of negative comments are going to come. I'll try to explain if you have a question the best I can, but that's my top 25 heading into week 2. Big games coming up this weekend, and we'll learn a lot more about a lot of these teams, and of course have a brand new starting from scratch top 25 next week. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for more here on the SG1 Sports College Football Channel.